Hello, everyone. My name is Corey Vignola. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I am one of the Climate Resilient Program Coordinators here with Daily Acts. And today I'm going to be speaking upon biodiversity, urban and beyond. To begin, I would like to introduce you to a little bit of our organization. We are an education environmental-based nonprofit that inspires transformative action to create more connected, equitable, and climate resilient communities. We believe in the power of our daily actions to create a rippling effect of change as we work to reconnect people to self, to community, and to place. As an organization, we provide people with the knowledge, skills, and resources to live a more enriching life while working to have a smaller environmental impact. We take a heart-centered approach to connect people to community through our education programs, our action campaign, and influence and policy so that we're continuously addressing our climate crisis and creating a more livable future for all. A little bit about today is that we're going to be talking about biodiversity, and there really are 3 points or 3 different types of biodiversity. There's genetic, meaning that there's different genes and combination of genes within population. There's species diversity, where there's different kinds of organisms and relationships among those species. And lastly, there's ecological biodiversity, meaning that there's different habitats, niches, and species interactions. As you can see here by the images, biodiversity is highly dynamic. It's interactive and it's a model that is interrelated. Today, we're going to be really centering in looking at urban landscapes and the ways that we can interact with the biodiversity in city spaces and why it's needed. Personally, for me, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I've been a beekeeper for the last 7 years, and often people are fairly familiar with that soundbite, "Save the bees." And frequently I'm asked is, do we really need to save the bees? And the answer is yes. If my years of experience has taught me anything, is that there needs to be human interaction. And the single best way that I can help advise people and what they can do to help save the bees is just to plant a wide range of a variety of different food sources for the bees to come and forage so that they have the biodiversity, because each plant provides its own set of nutrients that the bees need to have a really healthy and balanced system to make them more resilient, more adaptive, and interact with the landscape. Biodiversity is essential to the health and well-being of all ecosystems and all living species and organisms, including ourselves. It has been a driver for evolution, and it's a dynamic system that is never static, and it goes through constant changes. It is described as not only having the variety or being the variety of life, but also the ecological complexities of different ecosystems. So what are some other ways that we might need biodiversity? I love using the example of that I love spaghetti. I'm Italian, and spaghetti was the first thing that I learned how to cook growing up. I could have it every single night, but if I had it, I'd probably feel really sick. And that's because we need a variety of food in our system and in our diet, because if we don't get the nutrients that we need, we become out of balance, become nutrient deficient, and our survival depends upon a variety of different resources so that we can continue to be our healthiest versions of ourselves. The main benefits of biodiversity are it ensures food and health security. It provides species variety of, helps them to fight a diversity of different diseases, and it also provides livelihood. Excuse me. However, there has been a recent study which concluded how we are losing biodiversity faster than how we can count it. In 2019, the International Government Science Platform had a report done that biodiversity and ecosystem services were accelerating faster than how we could preserve it. And unanimously across 50 various countries. A report that was written by 145 different experts concluded how we are entering into our sixth mass extinction of wildlife accelerating. Geologically, we capstone time in Earth's history, and right now we are in the era of the Anthropocene, meaning that we are in this unofficial unit of geological time, and it's being used to describe the most recent period of Earth's history when human activity has started to have a significant impact on our planet's climate and ecosystems. An example of this is that no matter where you're at on the Earth, you're gonna feel the impact of humans' presence and our footprint that we have on our planet. For example, we all live within the same atmosphere, and because of the greenhouse gases that we've emitted, we're gonna feel the impact of climate change, and it doesn't matter where you go, climate change is existing, and we are all a part of the climate crisis. And it's going to take all hands on deck to help to combat and mitigate the climate crisis. And one solution that we're going to look at today is how we can continue to have a positive impact on our planet, lower our ecological footprint, and looking to nature as inspiration, or looking at nature for the resources and the ways that we can continue to have nature-powered solutions in urban development. You know, cities are essential to society in protecting ecosystems. Having a more concentrated and dense development in cities arguably helps to lower our impact on the planet. And we face a threat because if we do not connect people to nature in cities, then there's no way for people to have the memory or meaning or inspiration to protect cities outside, to protect nature outside of the cities. In California, it's very unique because we are one of 36 ecological hotspots in the world. That ecological hotspots only make 2.4% of the Earth's landscapes, but support numerous life more than any other place on Earth. To qualify as an ecological hotspot, the location must have a high percentage of plant life that it can be found nowhere else on Earth. And the second criteria is that that life must be threatened, where it has 30% of its vegetation being threatened. As we continue to develop in our landscapes, there's a responsibility to help to preserve and interact with those ecological hotspots so that we can continue to nurture it and have regenerative systems so that it can be self-sustaining. And there's many ways that we can help to protect the ecological hotspots, ecosystem services, or biodiversity. We can opt into green infrastructure. We can also select native plant species that are naturally already a part of our landscape, which have already adapted throughout the years and tell a really rich history that is a part of our story that we can continue to tell as it connects us to our past, our present, and our future. We can also continue to build up, not out, and because when we continue to build out, that places pressure on our environment, and we can, as a culture and a society, mitigate urban sprawl by preserving those rich resources and ecosystems that help to provide resources. Some other ways that we can continue to save biodiversity is seeing that nature is a critical infrastructure and worthy of investment. We can look at these nature-based solutions and to nature to see that the solutions are already there, and we can look to tapping into it and creating inspiration because nature is highly dynamic and it goes through seasons and ebbs and flows. And by designing and anticipating those changes, we help to decolonize the ways that we have interacted in the past and to mitigate those losses because like great infrastructure, such as like pipelines, cement, those might be highly effective and fast, but not necessarily efficient or adapting with the changes, especially in a time of the climate crisis where we need to change with our environment. An example that I enjoy speaking upon is flooding. This is an issue that is really common here in Sonoma County. Because we have not been practicing prescribed burns, we have our really intense fire seasons that wipes out vegetation. And that vegetation helps to, so when the rain comes, sink and store the water. Without that vegetation, the water is just running down very fast and picking up a lot of contaminants and debris, and it's going to various different storehouses where it's not being filtered as it normally would within vegetation in our soil. It also will bottleneck in our sewer systems and overflow, and that's where we get a lot of the overflow that goes to our parks and it pollutes our water systems. A solution for this is anticipating those natural systems that are going to be occurring annually and finding ways to slow down the water, hold it, sink it, and let it move a little bit more strategically. So in urban areas where we're seeing a high magnitude of runoff, we want to create a variety of solutions. And one way that we can anticipate this and have flooding be a part of our landscape and cultural community is by designing flood-friendly parks. Instead of planting ornamental plants, we can edge the parameter of the parks to create intentional flood zones and temporary wetlands. This allows water to sink and be stored in the landscapes and becomes functionally programmed to direct the flooding. These temporary wetlands also helps to slow the water and gives it time to sink into the landscape, filling groundwater systems. It also becomes an ecosystem service, helping the chain reaction of the entire food web system and the biodiversity that relies on those wetlands. The wetlands help to provide habitat and resources where the species can repopulate. It helps to invite insects and invertebrates, which might then help some of the migratory birds which are passing through. It also helps to create soil that is going to become more fertile, which helps plants and vegetation, which in return helps to combat the climate crisis by capturing carbon, storing it in the soil, and creating regenerative systems. When we begin to work with the landscape and these natural systems, we continue to anticipate the dynamic processes of nature rather than colonializing it in structures which are not adaptive to the changing ecosystems, especially in a pivotal time where we all need to be working together to combat the climate crisis. In our own landscapes, there are numerous ways that we can get plugged in and work with our environment and make daily actions that have a rippling effect of positive change in our landscape and in each other's lives. As we can continue to plant species of plants in our yard that have a multifunctional purpose. So I love this example on the slide. It's what benefits from each plant can you get from it? So is it going to be water wise? Can it provide habitat? Is it edible? Can you eat medicine, or can you make medicine from it? Is it beautiful? That's a function that can be equally just important of having it in your landscape. We can choose native species that are adapted to our Mediterranean climate and fit this specific niche of our ecosystem hotspot. By choosing plants that are native to the landscape, it also helps to preserve our past while connecting us forward and helping to pull us into the future in a story that we want to continue to tell that unites us both to the land and to one another. Nature is all around us, and by inviting it in to work with us, we can continue to create green infrastructure, which helps to create unity and relation to all life around us. We can continue to put rain gardens in our landscape, or find other ways to reuse water, or adopting gray water systems. We can upcycle material, grow our own food and medicine, select a diverse range of species that help to attract organisms and other species into our landscape that are well adapted to fit this landscaping niche. There are, of course, multiple other ways that you can get plugged into your landscape and community and help to fight the climate crisis and preserve biodiversity. If you would like to learn more, we have a variety of upcoming events here with Dailyx where you can learn the various ways that you can preserve biodiversity and create more connected, equitable, and climate resilient communities. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Corey. You can reach out if you have any questions, comments, or concerns at corey@dailyx.org. And I appreciate so much all of your time and that we get to do this together.